This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
It's the Dirty Laundry Game-Worn Hockey Podcast.
We're old school, right? We wash our own dirty laundry.
The name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back.
I refuse to be judged by a grown man wearing a hockey jersey.
Game on!
Game on!
We are back with another episode of the Dirty Laundry Game-Worn Hockey Podcast, episode 75. Wow. We are to the end of 2024. By the time you hear this, a couple days after, or a couple days starting 2025. First of all, welcome Justin, a.k.a. the boring guy, Paul Rank, and Wade Hampton. Gentlemen, it's been a fun year of doing shows for sure. Justin's been in and out with work and family and all that. Hey, that's all part of this because we all deal with that every day. So Glad to have you to help wrap things up. So it's definitely going to be a fun discussion. A lot of stuff to cover tonight. First of all, I hope everybody got the jerseys and gear and stuff they wanted for Christmas. I saw a lot of different posts across different pages about what people got and surprises and cool stuff, which is awesome. So congrats and Merry Christmas to anybody that got that stuff. The drink this evening is another old fashioned from MB Roland, single barrel Kentucky straight bourbon. Got it at my local, one of my local liquor stores. The place is a hole in the wall, but one of the best places to get different bourbons. And this stuff is top notch. Hopefully you can find it in your area with drinks like that. And cheers, by the way.
Cheers.
We have to thank our sponsor. I think he's officially been the sponsor all year. If not, it's darn close. Mitch with the Drink Your Face Off lines of bottle openers and clothing. I know he's working on other stuff, so thank you for that. We've got Wade with we're hoping in 2025 Dr. Pepper will come through. I know they've got some other big stars in front, but they're still working, trying to get Wade on that contract. So we'll see what happens.
I got up to run and get one just for this moment.
You know what? And I love the dedication for that. That's one of the things that whenever time we bring this up, if you don't hold it up, you run and get one. And that is dedication to the craft. And I thank you for that. I want to say, and feel free to chime in on this as well, gentlemen. Last week's show got a lot of reception, and I know some people said it may have been a little much with 8. So send us more of that too. Is if you didn't like it, or if we could have tweaked it different, let us know. It was the first time we've ever done it with that many people and tried to do kind of a round table. And I know we skimmed on topic a lot just because we had several things. We are going to revisit, and because of having guests lined up for almost every week in January, it probably won't be till at least February to get back into discussion on wear and values and things like that. And there was some good discussion. If you go to our Facebook page, the Dirty Laundry Game-Worn Hockey Podcast page, you can see some of the comments that were sent back and forth today. It was a fantastic discussion. So we are going to revisit that, but we've got guests booked 3 of the weeks already for this month, including one gentleman who reached out to me, who was in Scotland as a collector, but moved to New Zealand and is going to come on and talk about how difficult it is to get jerseys there and all that kind of stuff. So I am very excited. He's trying to lock in the dates right now. Very excited to have him on, but we're going to have a ton of guests in 2025. January is already booked. So gentlemen, before we get into some of the other stuff, how'd you think last week went and some of the feedback you've seen or heard? Wade.
Oh, hey, everybody. No, I think it's tough to get that many voices going and, check back to people. So I thought, the feedback I got was that people were definitely intrigued by having some more guests and some more opportunities there. I do think that, that we left that topic pretty wide open to come back to in February. And I think that I'd love to have people continue to give us feedback on what they want to hear, what their thoughts are, or if they want to come on and talk about jersey wear. I thought it was fun to have some extra people on. It did I know it was a challenge for you, I'm sure, to monitor all that. What's that?
Doc did a great job.
Yeah, Doc. I mean, that was pretty incredible. I actually loved we had our little put our hand up button, which I really enjoyed.
The fun part of Zoom to be able to control that. But yeah, from the tech side, it did make things a little easier. But it was a learning experience. It's like, you know what, let's try this, see how it goes. And I thought we've had a lot of positive feedback. We'll definitely tweak some things. We do that in the future. But it's nice to sometimes have a bigger group of voices if you could moderate it right. At some point, I want to do a version of that in person at one of the expos, do a live round table. So that is definitely a down the road thing. Paul, any thoughts before we get into more of the show?
No, in regards to last week's, I enjoyed it. I do agree. It was a lot of people on it. You did a great job moderating it. We were very careful not to talk over everyone. I just was pleased with that aspect of it. But you are right. We could have gotten deeper into stuff, and it's tough with that many people. So.
And we'll like I said, we'll dig deeper into all those topics in the shortcoming part of the year. But I mean, like I said, January is already locked up pretty much. So, and some of these topics may come up in those shows, but we'll also focus on the guests. Justin, anything before we get into the other stuff tonight?
It was fun. It was neat to meet some of the collectors I hadn't met before and see, exactly, because we have a pretty diverse group of voices. I consider myself somewhat of I wouldn't say more of a recent collector. I've been collecting since 12 years, but still that makes me feel, even compared to some of the old timers in the hobby, it was neat to really see some other collectors who really have some amazing collections and who have just such a cool perspective. And the feedback that we're getting, the podcast is in a very good spot, and so it's really neat to kind of see more of us participate. And Doc, you do a service to the hobby, for the hobby.
Hey, I enjoy it. Like I said before we came on, I did news and talk radio for 6+ years and got burnt talking to myself other than taking phone calls. So doing it in a group setting like this it's much more fun. Than I definitely don't feel like I'm rambling or talking to myself any more than I already do. And I think if my memory or my geography more or less is correct, I think we had all 4 time zones in last week, because we had East Coast, Central. Are you in Mountain Time, Justin? I'm
in Central. So same as
me.
Oh, yeah.
And then Paul West. So we didn't have the Mountain Time, but we had 3 of the 4 time zones in, which isn't bad either. One of the other things before we get into the big topic is, as you'll hear this show a couple days after New Year's Eve, the Blues and Blackhawks are going head to head on New Year's Eve this year instead of New Year's Day. NHL Auctions already has the auction up for Fanatics. They are first period jerseys. I've heard they're wearing either 4 or 5. I've not been able to get confirmation for sure one of the if it's 4 or if it's 5, and I've not found any details yet. But they are already open. The auction opened December 27th. It closes January the 14th. Bedard's is already at $3,545 as of Sunday night, 12/29. I know it's going to shoot up. There's 13 bids on it. But the description of these real quick, just to let you know, it says bid now on this jersey. It was worn by Connor Bedard of the Chicago Blackhawks during the 2025 Winter Classic at Wrigley Field, Chicago. Jersey was worn during the first period against the St. Louis Blues on December 31st, was collected from the team's locker room by Fanatics Authentics in conjunction with the NHL and individually numbered, blah, 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 blah. They have, of course, right now just generic images up for both teams, but they are out there. It'll be interesting to see, and we will cover this, at least cover what the prices are next week when we do the show back on regular Thursday night recordings. But some of these do already have bids. All the starting prices are at $250, which isn't bad. They're not going to stay there. But the
one thing I did think was interesting was they only have, like, for the Blues, they only have like 6 or 8 of them up there. Some of the star players, I guess they're pretty much locked in, are going to be there. So it looks like they'll fill in the rest of the roster as you get closer.
Yeah, and I was a little
Yeah, this isn't
surprised
gonna
by
be
that because
Yeah.
some of the other big name guys you would think are playing would be up there, but who knows what Fanatics is doing or if something's being held for something else or whatnot.
The interesting one for the
and,
Blues.
and the cards.
Yeah. The interesting one for the Blues is Cam Fowler. That will be his 1,000th NHL game.
Oh.
So, yeah, so it's pretty cool. That's going to be his 1,000th NHL game at the Winter Classic. First time that's ever happened. So it'll be interesting to see which one of those jerseys make it out.
Well, and he's because normally if it's four, or actually five, because I think they do a photo shoot jersey, warm ups, first, second, and third period. So yes. And the players always get one anyway. So he'll get one.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But typically,
you're fine.
If it's five, that's the first of that, because typically the photo shoot and warm up jersey is the same jersey.
Is it? I was thinking they had made those two separate, but you might be right.
Yeah. So if they did make it a fifth jersey, that would be interesting. What's that?
It's 4 jerseys. I mean, it's still. I mean,
yeah, it's
right.
insane.
It's.
I mean, and the Blues one has grown on me more. I will say that I think the Hawks one is very sharp. Both look good, so I do hope they do well. I'd love to pick one up. I know a lot of other people will. But yeah, I mean, Fowler, now will be more popular because a lot of people like having 1,000th game jerseys. Yeah. So there's gonna be some available because he already gets one. So there's not like.
I have to agree with you 1,000%. I was actually at work Saturday, and the Blues played home Saturday, and there were some customers walking through, and one of them was actually wearing like the nice Winter Classic Blues jersey. And from a distance, I looked at it, and I was like, man, I actually really like that. It was just kind of funny because I was busy at work, but like I've been very kind of standoffish about making a good call on it. But yeah, I think it's definitely sold for me a little bit.
Well, and this will be the second Bedard jersey coming up for auction.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know what the Blackhawks will do with any of the ones that they get, but we know when this was worn, we know for how long, and exactly what period. Because even the one that we talked about in the last one, which I meant to look up to see where it closed if it has. But this one's at least completely tracked. Of course, it won't have much wear just because it's a one period, but it'd be interesting to see where that closes compared to some of the other ones of his that have sold. Now for the big topic of this evening, and Justin brought this up, and I completely missed it on the main collecting page, and actually really none of us had seen this. Rick Ha is the poster of this, and he asked the question, and if we'd have thought about this more ahead of time, I'd have probably seen about bringing him on, but we just talked about it before we started recording. Rick Ha asked, this was on December 17th, so you can go find the post. Will you ever stop collecting? As he goes on to write the post, of course, this is easy to answer if you collect a team throughout its history or just pick up what you like. But I regularly come across posts from collectors with very specific goals. Just as one jersey of each team from a certain area, every jersey of one specific player, or even jerseys from a particular team. Just curious, do you have attainable goals like that? And what do you do when you've reached your goal? Lean back and enjoy what you have and stop collecting, or will you actively focus on another goal? And I'll sprinkle some of the comments from the Facebook post in here. But you know what, Justin, since you brought it up, I'll go to you first.
I'm going to tell a story. I used to work in an office supply store for years before I started my career. And there was one guy I worked with every summer. He was talking about quitting this office supply store, and he ended up working there for like 5 or 10 years. And you see this, I get in these modes of like, man, I really should dial in. I should, because sometimes the hobby becomes a bit of a time suck, to say nothing of the financial commitment. It was a really good question. I've been thinking about it for the last couple of weeks, and my response to this is I have grails. Well, one grail that I'm after, and a bunch of smaller iconic stuff from Binghamton that I would love to add to my collection. But I think I would stop collecting if the 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 time cost became more than the enjoyment of it. And if I like relocated to another area and I was physically disconnected from other collectors and I wasn't able to get out to an expo, or I wasn't able to meet up with collectors in town, I think that's when I would stop. And I've been really lucky having met a lot of good collectors up in the Winnipeg area and in the Minneapolis St. Paul area, where I consider a lot of these individuals not just collectors, but they're legitimate. When the cards are down, chips are down, like legitimate friends. And for me, when it becomes too transactional, or if it becomes just too much a pain in the ass with time, then that's when I'll see myself out. But the attainable goals, there's always going to be something to collect. There's always going to be the next biggest thing. For me, it's just about too many assholes in the hobby, then I'll bounce.
And no, and I think you do make a point too. Is if your heart's not in it, that's part of it. If it's like anything else, you talk about job. When you love the job you have, Paul's retired. Wade loves the loves the job that he has. I love the job I have. I mean, how I go, I'm in my office at 6:30 in the morning. That's how much I love my job. But I've had a rule, and I've exercised that rule in the past. A when a career, or when something is no longer fun and it's work, then I leave. And I did that actually with my radio job. Is it got to the point where I wasn't enjoying it. It wasn't worth it to me. And I'm like, I'm out. There's days I miss it, but now that's why I do things like this. And I produce a fun Civil War podcast called Civil Weird. Produce it because I enjoy history, and the guys that do it, I knew one of them, and we drink while we record and talk about Civil War history. So it's I can find excitement and find fun in other things. So like you said with that is, you may stay in it, or you may find a new way to angle that. Paul.
Yeah, no, I haven't, you know, well, first I missed the post, from last week. And I first read it when Justin brought it up an hour or so ago, half hour ago. And, we have the guidelines for our collection, which I think I joked about a little bit last week, are pretty broad. We collect University of Michigan, which now has become difficult because the school's not releasing jerseys. And we collect former Wolverines, which fortunately there's a lot of them in the NHL and the AHL and other leagues around the world. I'm at a funny point right now with collecting NHL, because it's probably no secret I am not a fan of Fanatics. And did you want to say something, Doc?
What did you say?
There you go. Thank you. And I just can't bring myself to buy a Fanatics jersey for myself. You heard that, right, Mitch? We had to pick up a jersey for Don at the game Friday night. So Mitch wanted to get photos of me carrying a Fanatics jersey. And, that's always
use them for blackmail later.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not wanting to add any Fanatics jerseys is kind of changing my collecting focus, on that. The only Wolverine in the Shark system right now is Bordelot, and he's been at the CUDA all year, so I don't have to worry about that. And then, I also collect Red Wings, but that affects, moving forward with, Fanatics. So at this point, we're basically looking for older stuff, which not buying as much retail or firsthand stuff. So I really, haven't given that question a lot of thought, because we're all getting older too, and this will be another show later. Like, what do you do with your collection when you die? And how do you prepare for that? Because believe me, if Monica and I were to pass away, in the next week or so, whatever, our kids would just be overwhelmed with the amount of jerseys and hockey crap we have around here, plus books and other stuff. So probably rambling a little bit on it, but I actually kind of see myself collecting until the day I die on this. I've enjoyed it for so long. It's part of my personality. Um, but I ideally would want to thin things down quite a bit before that day. I wouldn't want to leave anyone to deal with that much of stuff, and I hope Mitch heard that also. Yes.
Zamboni. Wade, before I go to you, I want to read a couple of the comments that are up on the page, and then we'll go get your thoughts on it.
Sure.
Let's see. This Ryan Clark is one of the posts. It says, "When I got my Grail jersey, I realized my enthusiasm diminished to almost zero for about a year. So I understand the feeling of hitting your goal and feeling lost in the hobby." Joe Flynn, "I've been in the hobby since the 90s. My collecting goals change from time to time, which caused me to sell stuff, move on to the next theme. The collection has to evolve, otherwise I would lose interest. I don't believe in a grail item, or I would acquire it and be done." Um, this one, great one from Mike Martin. "I collect as much physical space allows," and that's true for some people. When they run out of room, they stop. Brandon Morrison, "Once I hit 50, I'm gonna sell almost everything." Um,
There's and this didn't come up, but there is a certain, we've all seen it a little bit on, sometimes it comes up with younger collectors or newer collectors where they've clearly have overspent, and then you see the massive sell-off to recoup funds to get themselves out of, like, I wouldn't say it's the dark side of the hobby, but you have seen, we sometimes see individuals just get way too in it financially and then have difficulties managing that, and that has driven some people out of hobbies. Those sort of, I'm sorry, going out of business sales are always tough to watch because you don't know what is going on in people's lives, but to have like a sudden need to like liquidate your collection and then just be gone with it, that it doesn't, you don't see them too often, but when they do come up, they're pretty heartbreaking.
and it's well, and especially now, and Wade, give me 1 second, and we'll come to you on this. Is especially now with modern jerseys, the amount that are worn per player, the kinds of wear and things. If you get that at an auction, and even a year later, you're selling it because you need to get out from under it for whatever reason, or just decide it doesn't fit in your collection. In a lot of cases, and I've seen a ton of it happen just with watching some of the blue stuff, you're selling it for less than what you got it for. The modern stuff, while cool, and I can immediately go to Getty and find it, or I watched that game a month ago and now I have it, but the value isn't there like older stuff. And this will again be a topic really for down the road. But you're right, as you see that, and we've talked about that several times during shows, especially with helping a younger hobbyist, is try and find a focus and don't stretch yourself. I mean, PayPal can get really dangerous for that if you start with their PayPal credit and get a big limit and just keep sending that, and then you look at your bill and it's like, holy hell. I mean, you've got to be smart. Is set a monthly limit, set a yearly limit, whatever it is. But yeah, it is sad to see that, and they're taking a hit. Wade.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic for me because I think, I've been a hobbyist since I was a kid and started with baseball cards. And I obviously made a living in the autograph world. And, I have a huge autograph collection and probably entered the jerseys later than any of you guys. And that really happened when I moved back to St. Louis, and I wanted to change the focus of my collection just based upon the fact that I wanted to make the hobby fun again. And I think that came from working full time in the industry for a long time. I got to the point where, I was going to all the shows and getting autographs and stuff, and I wasn't connected to the stuff. So it got to be not fun anymore. So I think that as a hobbyist, I think that your goals can change and grow. So I still have a ton of autographs. I still collect autographs. I still, collect a lot of other things. But, I found a home in this. I found people I really connected to. I found a connection to the Blues. I found, something that I really enjoyed, and I found a niche that I felt was in need of like, you know, the expos and whatever here in St. Louis, that we've been able to kind of grow some stuff and do some stuff, and it's something I really enjoy. So as far as like exiting the hobby goes, or like, you know, I don't ever see myself stopping collecting, but I do think that as a collector, you do find yourself changing the direction from time to time, if that makes any sense.
No,
Yeah,
it's complete sense.
Yeah, like I mean, here I'll give you a prime example. I picked up, not jersey related. I picked up a handprint of Stan Musial from when he was alive with an autograph on it for my collection. Right, nothing to do with jerseys. I still collect Stan Musial. I still look for stuff. I've collected wrestling autographs for a long time. I at one point had a pretty exclusive vintage wrestling autograph set that I'd put together. And I got to the point where that got to be not fun anymore. And part of it was I didn't like some of the people that were in that niche hobby. I had kind of attained some goals and got to the point where I wasn't really having fun with it anymore. So I stepped away from it a little bit, if that makes any sense. So I think if you're a collector, you're always going to find growth and change. You know, Paul is a prime example of it. I mean, like, he found something he doesn't like about the modern jersey. So what's he done? He hasn't quit collecting. He's just adapted what he's collecting. And I think that's part of the fun. I know my jersey collection in the last year or two has changed substantially from what I was doing 5 years ago to what I'm doing now. And that's the fun part of being a collector.
well, you know, if my entire collection was based on auctions,
Yeah.
that would probably drive me out. I mean, you know, I just can't. I'm just not cutthroat about this stuff. You know, and part of what makes it so rewarding is not access in a privileged way, but when I know that I can approach someone at a team and be like, hey, would you consider please holding this? I'll pay a holding fee or whatever. Or you can ask someone. I enjoy sort of the backdoor ways of getting the modern stuff rather than like Penn State's going to surely have an auction for the Wrigley Field game. I'm dreading that. I probably won't even do it this year. So if I was focused on an area like with Paul, where you're so focused, or so your access is so restricted by a certain obstacle or a gatekeeper, then that would probably force me out of, you know, I would consider it, because if you just, again, like going head to head on auctions for all your stuff, like that gets old, that gets expensive, that gets too transactional. So
I guess part of me is the opposite. I mean, like, you know, obviously we already touched on the Winter Classic. I'm terribly excited for a couple auctions coming up. You know, like for me, that's part of this thing that I love. I mean, like, you know, that excitement of quote unquote winning one or losing one, and the trials and tribulations of that whole process. God, I'm stoked. I'm excited.
Your adrenaline level always goes up when you're watching that clock run down.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you got to have it, and then you have a backup plan. Well, if that one sells, I can go hit on this one quick, and all those things. But I think you're right. I think all of us have adjusted our focus or tweaked what we're doing, because I was trying to collect at one point, almost try to go backwards in time and get Blues jerseys from every year. And I know I'm not going to get a lot of them because of the cost, or for a while I wanted try and get clown jerseys. Well, for the longest time you just couldn't find them. Yeah. And then they just blew up and they were cheap. And I picked up a few in white and blue. And I'm like, okay, I don't need it anymore. Yeah. I've got, because I like what they look like. I'm done. Or with the McKenna stuff, rarely a one pops up, but I don't have to, like, and the last one that came up for auction, I didn't win it. And I was okay with that. It's like, you know what? I don't have to have it. And even with the blue stuff this year, I mean, there's a couple of players that I like. I wouldn't mind picking one up. If I get one, I get one. If I don't, I don't. I don't have to. I feel like I don't have to chase anybody. Like I say, and
that's maturing in the hobby as much as anything else. I mean, that's a maturation process. I mean, obviously you have a family and you have other things, and you've made a determination that you like collecting and you enjoy it, but it's not the end of the world for you. And I think that's, here, if I don't win a Winter Classic jersey, am I going to be disappointed? Probably. Am I going to get over it? Yeah, because I know. I've been doing this long enough and been a hobbyist long enough to know that if I don't get one that night, I'm still going to get one down the road because they will become available. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I always wanted one of the Winter Classic styles when they did them first in Reebok with the felt lettering and all that. They went for stupid crazy money when they came out, and I picked one up this past year because the Blues put a bunch out there with that felt numbering.
Yep.
They weren't in the Winter Classic, but it's that style with that felt lettering. I'm like, all right. And I paid way less, thousands less than if I'd have bought one right at the auction. So yeah, like one behind you in the thing. So I think I every day we look at all the Facebook groups and stuff, and I may see some cool stuff. Yeah, do I want? Nah, I don't. It's it'd be cool to have, but what does it do for me?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. Every now and again, though, you get good sizable bourbon in me, and then you just start to be like,
You were pretty hot potatoes, I think, about a month ago, Justin. It seemed like you were on fire buying.
Yeah, there were a number of pieces that came up, and I may have had some other reasons why I wanted to treat myself.
Yeah. You deserve.
I kind of had. But
and you deserved it, and you've earned it. That's what this is all about in this hobby. Is like, God forbid somebody's not paying their mortgage or their rent or their car payment to get a jersey. And these should be treats and something that we enjoy as part of the benefit of hard work. I like to think of, I still always go back and I still tell, and I tell people all the time, growing up, I didn't come from a background that afforded me the opportunity as a kid to have this stuff. Right. And it wasn't something that was really attainable. And I remember as a kid going to the Blue Note store and seeing the game used jerseys and never getting one until adulthood almost, and I acquired my first Brett Hall one, and I'll never forget. And I still do it from time to time. I will go in there and I will pull that jersey down and I look at that thing and I go, I can't believe I own this. I can't believe I have worked hard enough in my life or been fortunate enough to be in a position to have that thing hanging in my room. Right. And that's something that if that feeling ever leaves me, that's probably when I'll quit collecting.
Yeah, and it's that. Wait, I actually came from the same. Mitch, don't let this go to your head. My favorite jerseys outside of anything Binghamton related are those initial Sharks jerseys from their expansion years. And I, as a kid, couldn't afford even a replica. It was just so far out of it. And so, Wade, you talk about you go through a hard time, you get a bonus at work, whatever. It's fine to sort of pick up some things that you maybe at another point in your life couldn't have gotten. Like is it Cosby's? Who's the Rangers customizer? Cosby's?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember walking into Cosby's store around Madison Square Garden in the mid 90s, looking up and seeing all these Ranger customized jerseys. And I swear, I think he had like some Russian jerseys up there. And I just remember looking up at all these jerseys. I was in one of the it's just such a cool environment. I just remember thinking at that age, gosh, I want to be able to pull one down, and I couldn't. And now I go nuts for Rangers match jerseys on the authentic side. So there's a little bit of kind of, you kind of treat yourself.
Yeah, it's great. You've earned it.
And sometimes you stop looking and you kind of even just take a little step back. Yeah, I don't need to buy anything right now. And then multiple things you've been looking for years all show up at once. And it's just how things are. So Paul, from your side of things, because you collect multiple teams and of course the Michigan kids, which you'll continue to get NHLers coming out of Michigan because they do have a solid program. As you get the thumbs down from Justin G, can't figure out why. Do you anticipate of course, you live in San Jose, so I don't see you doing much with the Sharks. But you ever see at any point where you kind of go away from the Wings?
No, it's that'd be a really tough team to leave. It's and I've had this conversation with Sharks fans around here. It's just like you have Shark season tickets. You should always be cheering for the Sharks. It's just like, but we used to be a Red Wings fan, moved out here and all that. How would it work for you, you as a Sharks fan for 10, 20, 30 years, moving to Dallas? Are you going to be a Stars fan? Or you might buy Stars season tickets, but you're going to stay a Sharks fan. And it's unless the Sharks, I'm sorry, unless the Wings do something insanely stupid, I just can't imagine not keeping following and being a fan. I'm fine not buying Fanatics jerseys from them because there's plenty of other older jerseys. We're still trying to complete the Russian Five. We don't have all five of them yet. And the old Wings jerseys are just great. Lots of wear, lots of players that grew up loving, and yeah, I will not leave them. And it's still, as long as we're living in the Bay Area, we're keeping the Shark season tickets. It's probably not the best buy this year with the last 4 or 5 years with how bad they've been, and you can get tickets a lot cheaper on the secondary market. But it's still nice to have the early access to the equipment sale, get in 15 minutes early, a lot of little other perks, and we have our Shark seats are for the price just great seats, and we're not going to give those up, and we'll keep going there. I know the Sharks have done things over the years that really have pissed us off. I can just say one word, Flavel. And I know the guys on this show won't know what I'm talking about, but Mitch and others in the Sharks community will know exactly what I'm referring to for one of their VPs that they hired years ago and try to make everything go corporate and at the expense of the fans. But yeah, no, to answer your question, I'm stay a Wings fan until the day I die, unless they do something incredibly stupid. And you know what? It's not just trading Adam Oates away. It takes a lot more than that. So.
No, and I was just curious because you do across multiple things. I'll read a couple other posts from people on the subject here. This is from Tim Medeiros. I always seem to find the quote next project. Something always seems to pop up that spikes my interest. Even when I tell myself I'm going to chill out, there's always something. It's hard to take a back seat, especially when you lose focus or when you focus on a specific player team, which I do. I'll get my hands on a grail piece, but there's always something else I want to acquire. It really is an addiction. At the end of the day, I see myself in my future retirement unloading them. Instead of picking things up, I'll be moving them, and it's another way I'll stay busy in the hobby, but hopefully making money to help fund things for my wife and kids. So basically, I'll always be active in collecting till the time is right to move on. Just don't know exactly when that will be. I hope it'll be a good investment, but I understand we sometimes take a hit. And good thoughts, good post on there. Mark Blazes. Yes, I will. I lean towards it often, however. I backtrack and find myself buying something else as I get older, though, and interest wanes. I'd prefer to sell and not leave this to family to deal with. And another, again, that topic we mentioned earlier, this will be a topic that we get to in the coming months is what happens. Hopefully you plan before you die. What to
Heck of a yard sale here in Highland.
Right.
At some
Robert,
point.
This one's interesting. Robert Robertson. Collectors collect. It's in their DNA. Yeah?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Let's see. Dustin Park. As a Coyotes fan and collector with no more Coyotes, I'll just focus on finding the Yote sweaters I never got my hands on. I don't have plans to collect other jerseys outside the Coyotes franchise at this time. So still leaving a little bit of an opening there, but no, these are all. It's one of those things because I mean, you could wake up one day and go, you know what, I'm just going to shift my focus to something else completely, and just walk away. I've seen people do that in their careers, in collecting other things, when they say, you know what, I've had this, I'm done with it, and gone, and you never hear their name and whatever they were doing again.
I could see. I mean, at some point down the road, I mean, like I know we're going to talk about this later. I mean, just based on the quantity I have, I could see myself at some point thinning down. So I've done that with other parts of collections I have, but I don't think I could ever see myself clearing out of all of this because I really love the blues too much and I enjoy our hobby too much. I mean, it would take probably something really pretty bad to get me to want to like totally leave, this thing. And sitting here just listening to everybody, like like I lived in New Jersey for a long time, and I used to go to a lot of Devils games and Rangers games. And as a kid, my cousins were both big Rangers fans, so I still have a little bit of a love for some Ranger stuff. And then I went to Jersey games, so but like I if I moved to another city, I could see myself, depending on the team or the city, maybe collecting a little bit, but I don't think I'd ever quit collecting the blues primarily, if that makes any sense. Kind of like what Paul did, Like
Yeah,
I could see myself if I moved if I moved to a city that had an NHL team and I was frequently, involved with that team, going to games and getting to know the players and making connections with that, I could see myself adding some more of that interest to my collection. But I don't think I could ever abandon the blues. I mean, I've got it tattooed on me, for Christ's sake.
And I mean, with having and I picked up a little bit of a few of them just to have to wear when Bloomington Bison started. They got the Rangers affiliation. Was hoping for the Blues because they were right here, but didn't come. I picked up a couple Rangers jerseys just to wear up to the game, so it looked better than not having a jersey on. And of course, one of them is a former Blue, and I wouldn't mind picking up a couple other Blues or former Blues that plays the Rangers just so I can at least kind of combine the two. But I don't see me just buying Rangers jerseys like crazy now. I just wanted to. I would look out a place I wore a Blues jersey up there.
Now, like here, if you became a big fan of that team and then you got to know some of those players and then they made their way up from the ECHL up to the AHL into the NHL, then that would be grounds to probably start looking for those guys as jerseys at that next level. I could see that for you, and I still now I harpen back to a lot of our Peoria friends and collectors who have lost that franchise, and it's been kind of sad to see some of those guys liquidate and kind of leave the hobby over the last year or two, just because I think their connection changed substantially, and life happened for a lot of those guys. And there's great guys and great situations, but you can definitely tell that their connection changed.
You're right. I mean, we've all grown up collecting something. I collected baseball cards when I was a kid, and eventually I think probably threw them all away. I don't think it wasn't like card shops were on every corner and all the crazy values and stuff you see now. Yeah. But I was always kind of collecting something or would try to collect a certain thing. And then, once I became an adult and had income where I could afford to do this and found my love for it, I've enjoyed it. Will there again be someday where I go, you know what, I've had everything I've had. I'll move on and still have the memories and have the friendships, but just not have the fabric anymore.
Yeah.
At some point, but.
And the milestone thing is interesting, which gets to the original post, because I've had my Grell for, what year is this? 25, going into 25. I've had my Grell for 8 years.
Well, Lonnie, freaking down to you.
I mean, there's like a kind of a secondary Grail. Like I'm firmly in pursuit of the white Binghamton goalie jersey, Kay Whitmore. But if I didn't get another piece to add to my collection, if it all dried up, I have my Storkowitz Whalers gamer. That's never going. I show it every time I go to an event, but there is a part, but the transactional. It's the friendships. I hope to meet 2 of the 4 later at some point. I know I'm going to be meeting Paul here in about 12 weeks. So it just comes down to the friendships. It comes down to the fact that, during a difficult time, 2 difficult times in my life, I had collector friends sort of just help out, and you can't put a value on it, you can't put a time frame on it, you can't put any element in to that. And so if I never get another Binghamton jersey, whatever, it's not the end of the world. But I wouldn't miss moderating a group. I would miss sort of going up and seeing collections at these Winnipeg Expos. I would miss just seeing the enthusiasm for new collectors, even though it's kind of hard sometimes to watch. But no, there's just a lot of pieces of it that I enjoy, even if I somehow stop buying. But I don't have to worry about that because I'm going to keep buying, at least for the short term. I bought one literally minutes before the show started. I paid Paul for one today.
Thank you.
You.
But like we know both the Wings and the Sharks will miss Paul's purchases going forward, and probably call you at home to make sure you're okay, because of the connections you made with both the teams. Of course, the Sharks people see you all the time anyway, but it's, again, you are drawing that line in the sand, and I completely respect that.
There's plenty of non-Fanatic stuff to pick up.
Of course.
In terms of gear, and Zambonis and whatever they make available. So,
Paul, who from Fanatics would have to call you to butter you out of this?
I don't know if there is anyone at Fanatics who could do that. The history's just too long. This all goes back to the World Cup of Hockey sale.
Yeah.
And I know they weren't doing the jerseys then. It's just like, it was such a negative experience for almost everyone.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it started a hate relationship.
There you have it.
Yeah. So it's,
I'm still hopeful that someday I can't wait. I'm still hopeful that someday we're going to see you with a Fanatics jersey.
That is one mail day I will pay dearly for, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, I think we'd all be happy to see you, whatever.
And not to get too far off track with the subject, but I do want to ask the question, because Paul was sending us pictures the other day from the game you were at, sending us pictures of Fanatics jerseys with the wear. The fact that you had them in front of you and were able to lay hands on them, what did you think of actually with looking at some of the wear, and you feel free to describe some of it, and just feeling the jersey itself? What is your honest opinion of touching the jersey and kind of looking at how it's wearing and stuff?
So if you were blindfolded and given a Fanatics jersey and an Adidas jersey, besides the dimples, and just seeing how they feel and wear, you probably could not tell the difference, even with the reinforced elbows, on the Fanatics ones. It seems very, very similar. I haven't done a good comparison between the older Adidas and the more recent Prime Green, because I thought the Prime Green material was proprietary to Adidas, not to the factory.
Yes, it is.
I could be wrong, but yes.
That's at least how I understand it anyway, too.
Yeah. So, all the Adidas jerseys I've seen game worn, they seem pretty sturdy. They seem nice. All the names are put on correctly. The logos are right side up. None of the numbering's transposed. Well, that's a few times, but they're decent jerseys. They're holding up. It's more just a principle thing for me for not wanting.
And I get it. I was just curious because you were in front of some, and one thing on yours too, and I don't know if you flipped it over and really felt it or noticed it, is your logo on the front, are they raised more than the Adidas ones were? The blues, the yellow stripes and the blue now are raised higher, and you can feel it when you run your hand over it. The Sabres jersey I got did not seem to be that way. But I don't have an original an Adidas one to compare.
So this is actually in my house, but it's going to a friend. So what do you want me to check?
I'm just curious if the logo itself is more 3D, because that was part of their description, and on the Blues one it is.
It definitely is. It's raised. I don't. If you're on the listening to this, you're not going to see it. But like this part right here on the fin, that's actually raised up.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's not under Adidas, correct?
Yeah, and I have Justin's Adidas jersey over there too. Good check. So it's definitely more 3D on the crest on this, and this is one of those one period wonders. Yeah, just looking. Yeah, it's nothing surprising on the inside. What
Oh,
else?
goes.
And then I know this is painful. This does seem much heavier in the shoulder, in the elbow area.
They double did it this year. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be double reinforced.
Yes.
I have a thing for Sharks jerseys these last few months. I don't know why.
Yeah, they're beautiful. I
Expect my sell off in February.
I got my first one last year. They're beautiful, man. They really are.
My goldfish brand will probably aesthetically, right? And this is the whole reason why I started collecting, is because these things look cool, right? In the hobby, the value, I really don't put too much stock in. It's got to look cool to me, and that explains why I've collected Winnipeg. That explains why I've collected a lot of the Penn State jerseys. It has to look interesting to me. And Sharks lately have taken a bite out of my wallet.
Nice pun.
And when you're out here, I'm sure they'll take plenty more.
Oh no! Don't tell me that.
Yeah, you're
you
gonna
already
be out
know
there.
that.
You'll see him in person. We'll just see pictures of Justin wheeling a cart out of the arena. But gentlemen, I mean, this is a topic that we maybe months down the road we'll revisit again. Maybe have a couple people on outside of us to talk about, because this is one. And again, we are going to have the discussion in the coming months of planning for when you go off this planet. Best ways to navigate help your family navigate how to get rid of this stuff and not just give it to Goodwill or things like that. So there's going to be a lot of those kind of discussions coming this year. A ton of guests. Like I said, January is almost completely booked up already. We're going to have topics after topics. My goal is to spend a lot more time planning ahead on some things and finding certain collectors from around the community that may fit on a certain topic too, to just to really hammer some points home. But before we wrap up, kind of go around the horn to do final thoughts to welcome in 2025. Again, you listen to this, it'll be January 2nd, 3rd when we release this. So hopefully you celebrated the new year and enjoyed that. Wade, we'll start with you.
I just really wanted, I know we've talked 75 episodes, and I think you said almost 20,000 listens. I just want to thank everybody for sticking with us through this. It's been a lot of fun for us, and I think it's helped all of us be more informed about the hobby, and hopefully we've been able to pass that along. For 2025, I'm excited to finally get my hands on some Fanatics jerseys. Unlike Paul, I am excited to get a few and see what they look like and test them out versus the previous stuff. And I guess when we're listening to this later in the week, I will be enthralled in the next few weeks in trying to attain a Winter Classic jersey for my collection, or two, because that usually is what happens, because I'll bid and win two on accident.
There's got to be a term for that.
Yeah, sick.
Well, we're talking about getting rid of collections or paring things down. He's going to fund this because he decided to finally move on from his hairbrush collection.
Oh man, that's rough.
I know that was a dig, but I figured we'd at least throw it out there to welcome in 2025.
Pretty handsome.
Yes, but that glare, my God.
Yeah.
Paul, what you got?
Well, first off, Mitch, you got the photo of me with a Fanatics jersey. So he didn't get it at the game, but you have it now. So, but that will not stay here long. Here at Dirty Laundry, when we make a mistake, we live up to it, and we'll correct it. At the last Sharks game, was chatting with Logan, who's been on the show before, and we were way off on the Smith jersey, the Celebrini Smith jersey for the Thornton night. I think we said 5 or 6K on the Smith. That actually went for only 3,000.
Okay.
Wow.
The Smith, which is still, I mean, for it's one of it. Well, I guess it is his first real jersey to come out. So from that game, and then his puck, which I forget which game it was from, was 700. Then on top of that, they had the ugly. That's a correction. So thank you, Logan, for pointing that out. And sorry, we had the wrong numbers last week on that. The Celebrini stuff is correct. There was another auction for the ugly sweaters, the stuff they wore in their video. Celebrini went for 1,000, and I believe Smith went for 800. At least that's what it looks like from checking the bids, but they didn't have. Hopefully that's correct. So decent money, not crazy, but for something worn to make a video. And the Shark stand on Saturday night had the first piece of Celebrini jerseys or gear, or I take that back. Friday night they had a pair of gloves which sold for $500, and I think they had another pair on Saturday which were also 500. Friday they had a practice jersey from him which would have been worn at the prospect camp in the past spring and the when they come in, and then the teal white game. This was the teal one. They wore the white one. Celebrini, sorry, wore the white one in the game, and that was sold for 1,500. So that's the first pieces of Celebrini stuff coming out to the public. As for 2025, I'm looking forward to attending a bunch of expos. We have February 1st here in San Jose, March 1st in Los Angeles, the mid-April one at St. Louis for the Frozen Four, and then Monica and I will be at the one in Germany at the end of August, but really want to push the 3 US-based ones, especially the St. Louis one. That's so much fun, coupled with the Frozen Four.
Yes,
And
cannot wait for that one. That's going to be so much fun.
oh yes, excited to get out there. Personal. Monica's on spring break then from school, so
Even
we'll be
better.
able to come out a little bit early.
Nice. Justin, what do you got? I'm sorry, Paul, were you done?
I was saying that's it for me. Happy holidays, everyone. So
No, I really enjoy the conversation. I looking forward to. I don't know. I honestly can't figure out what this year, because normally I go into a year like, oh, there's like a piece that I kind of want. I don't know. I mean, I think I'll just kind of keep going at buying the occasional Sharks, trying to avoid. I have a disdain for my own reasons for auctions. I just can't do it. If I know a piece is on eBay, I'm going head to head with someone. My heart's not in it. But so I don't know. Normally, I go into a calendar year thinking I want to kind of get and work on a certain part of my collection, but I've been able to pick up some really good pieces to augment my Penn State collection. I've had some really good Binghamton pieces over the last 6 months. My Sharks thing, how long this lasts, I don't know. So I don't know what the year will bring, but I do plan on keeping it fun, no matter what I'm selling, no matter what I'm buying. I want to keep enjoying it, and it really does come down to friendships.
That's the most important, because jerseys always come and go in most cases. One thing I want to touch on quick, just because I remembered, went to the link and it's ending any minute now, is the Blackhawks Connor Bedard auction for the away. It ends as soon as the puck drops any minute now for the third period. Started third period for the Blackhawks. It is currently at $36,250.
Really?
It looks like, and I'm trying to check the score real quick here as well.
it has started the third.
Yep. So it is officially done at 36,250 unless they accept late bids. But as soon as that puck was dropped, that was it. While Justin and Paul was talking, I was actually scrolling and watching the price go up $50 or $100 at a time. So it looks like it closed officially 36,250. So now we'll see what the Winter Classic one goes for one period as well. To wrap up my thoughts going into 2025, all the support that we've gotten for this show is people commenting on the post, saying what they like. And again, don't ever be afraid to either post or message one of us saying, hey, didn't like this, or this didn't seem to work, or maybe you could do this thing. I want that stuff because it helps us make a better show. Don't ever think we're locked into how I do stuff because I push the buttons in that. No, we want to make this enjoyable for people, because if it's not, then people are going to quit listening to it, and then we'll get sick of doing it and move on to something else. So give us your critiques and stuff like that. Again, if you want to come on, feel free to reach out. I love getting those messages. Like I said, we're working on one person from a collector from New Zealand right now to lock in those dates this month. We have 2 other weeks that are already booked up in January. So we're filling that calendar quick. And if I can lock in people now till the end of the year, I'm good with that, because I know we're getting a lot of different fun collectors in, and we'll do some more, like I said, tweak it a little bit, do some more roundtable stuff as we go through the year. But we have tons of topics. If you don't want to come on, but even have just topic suggestions, send it. Please, again, the annoying thing from listening to all this stuff, go subscribe wherever you get your podcast. I always see the numbers go up on YouTube and things like that, and it means a lot to see that we're continuing to reach people. And if you know collectors that haven't heard this or don't think they've really listened, or don't think they'll like it, get them to listen to it for just a little bit. Have them find an episode that you think they'll like, and hopefully get them hooked. But again, we appreciate all the support. We love doing this. This is fun. And it really do hope that it makes the hobby better, and we appreciate everything. But welcome to 2025, and I hope everybody has a great start to their year, and we will talk to you again soon.